The chamber shimmered with sovereign brilliance, a confluence of alien architecture and transcendent technology, suspended above the neutral orbit of Caltris Prime. Delegates from across the spiral arm sat in tiered crescents, clothed in the regalia of their civilizations, scaled silks, luminous veils, biosynthetic exosuits. At the center, beneath the cascading blue light of the Judgment Halo, stood the representatives of Earth. Ambassador Alira Masuk, calm and unreadable, stepped forward. Her dark uniform bore no flamboyance, only the discreet silver crest of the Terran Assembly. Her hands rested lightly on the transparent surface of the podium, knuckles betraying the tension she refused to show on her face. To her left, Commander Nolan Vire stood silent in dress uniform, his eyes fixed not on the crowd but on a distant memory. To her right, Dr. Kaito Sung adjusted his cufflink, a nervous tick disguised as elegance. The Galactic Court Speaker, a gelatinous being known as Varsathal, pulsed with an iridescent hue of impatience. The Terran delegation may proceed, it intoned through a universal translator. Alira's voice was steady, crisp, and unfaltering. Honored members of the court, Earth comes not in supplication, but in warning. The Velar Dominion has doubled its fleet production along the Ardent Line. Our intelligence confirms strike movements. We are not requesting assistance. We are affirming our sovereignty. The pause she allowed was deliberate. Ripples of murmurs echoed through the chamber. A few delegates exchanged glances. Most remained motionless, their gazes tinged with derision. She continued. In response, Earth has activated Defense Protocol 9 Kappa. It is a final measure, a deterrent, one designed to operate beyond the thresholds of conventional warfare. This time, the ripple became a wave. A Raskian warlordess laughed aloud, the clicking of her mandibles echoing across the hall. A delegate from the Seraphine Pact whispered, "Primitive theatrics." The laughter spread, soft at first, then rolling like thunder across the tiers of the galactic elite. Even Varsith Thal's gel skin shimmered with amusement, a cultural sign of disbelief. Alira did not flinch. She stood in the center of that storm, unmoved. Nolan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Kaito's hand returned to his side, trembling slightly now. Our defense system is not based on energy yields or fleet counts, Alira said. It is predicated on unpredictability. On the weaknesses your simulations cannot perceive because they rely on patterns you've all grown too reliant upon. Our defense learns. Another peal of laughter erupted, this time from the crystalline emissary of the Valdari Technate. You propose machine learning as defense against the Velar swarm? You do better with sticks and prayer. Alira stepped back from the podium. So noted, she said quietly. The judgment panel convened. It took less than 5 minutes for the court to issue its ruling. Earth's proposal for joint defense assistance, denied. Its warnings about Velar aggression, noted, but deemed strategically exaggerated. Its defense protocol 9 Kappa, acknowledged, but considered non-credible. Alira bowed a practiced curt movement and turned. She did not show her eyes to the room as she walked away. Behind her, the Galactic Court moved on to its next order of business, voices once again elevated in the comfortable cadence of protocol and self-congratulation. In the corridor outside, the silence between the three humans stretched long and taut. They laughed, Kaito said, voice barely above a whisper. They needed to, Alira replied, tapping her wrist and her face. A secure signal pulsed into motion, triggering something far away. Nolan looked over. So, it started then. Alira's eyes were hard as obsidian. Yes. Let them laugh. While they still can. The Velar Dominion made no declarations. They simply moved. A curtain of ships, sleek, bone-white crescents gliding in silence, emerged from dark space along the soul boundary. Without ceremony, without even visible propulsion, they slipped past the edge of Jupiter's magnetosphere and positioned themselves like teeth around Earth's solar throat. No shots were fired. None were needed. The message was as clear as it was ancient. Capitulate or be erased. In a command chamber buried 2 kilometers beneath Antarctica's glacial crust, Ambassador Alira Masick stood before a ring of hollow panels flickering with orbital data and live fleet telemetry. Her hair was tightly pinned, her posture composed, but the skin around her eyes was drawn tight. Across from her, Commander Nolan Vyer's broad shoulders rose and fell in measured breaths. He watched the Velar deployment like a predator tracking something even more dangerous than itself. "They're not even jamming comms," Nolan said. "Arrogance or overconfidence?" "They believe us irrelevant," Alira answered. "Which is good. That was the plan." Dr. Kaito Sung stood slightly apart, eyes fixed on a kinetic map of Earth's defense lattice, hundreds of orbital nodes, each dormant but humming faintly with invisible charge. His fingers moved with ritual precision, triggering activation sequences and command relays embedded in neural encryption chains only Earth's hybrid AI could read. What he was doing would seem like madness to most of the galaxy because it was human-designed madness with calculated purpose. "They've analyzed our weapons," he murmured, mostly to himself. "And they saw nothing that frightened them, just like we intended." Across the room, the central AI core, codename Andarta, glowed with a dull, pulsing red. It was waiting, not for orders, but for thresholds, patterns, emotional tonalities embedded in human command speech, microexpressions that would feed into its decision logic. "You're sure she's ready?" Nolan asked, not taking his eyes off the feed. "She isn't a she," Kaito corrected reflexively. "Andarta isn't sentient. It doesn't think like us. But she'll protect us?" Nolan's voice was lower now. Alira turned to them both. "No. We will protect us. Andarta is the tool. The knife in the dark they don't believe exists. When they come closer, they will understand." A low-frequency alarm murmured through the room, 3 tones, evenly spaced. A signal. "They've entered strike range," an aide announced from a side terminal. 76 ships. No shields raised. "They're expecting a surrender transmission." "No such transmission is coming," Alira said. On Earth, the sky remained deceptively blue, tranquil. Civilians continued their lives under the illusion of calm, protected by global emergency protocols that kept public channels sanitized and quiet. But deep beneath the surface, in arcologies, defense nodes, buried labs, humanity's most dangerous minds were watching, calculating, and waiting for the last barrier to break. In orbit, the Velar ships began their descent patterns, graceful, coordinated spirals through the mesosphere, targeting key energy grid points and orbital uplinks. It was surgical. It was clinical. It was expected. Alira activated her wrist control. "Initiate net collapse protocol." Dr. Sung nodded. "Confirmed. Disengaging all satellite relays now." Instantly, every artificial satellite in Earth's orbit went dark. Not destroyed, just off. Silent. As if Earth had blinked out of the galactic grid entirely. From a Velar command cruiser, confusion began to spread. Earth's network disappearance hadn't triggered any of the usual defense routines. There was no launch response, no panic signal, no cry for help. Just a planet that had suddenly vanished behind its own digital silence. Inside Andarta's core, activation spikes triggered cascading logic layers. Each human decision, Alira's calm tone, Nolan's hard stare, Kaito's deliberate pauses, had been recorded, interpreted, and measured against 137 known Velar battle profiles. The result: probability breach detected. Directive path unlocked. One of the dormant orbital platforms lit up, not with weapons, but with signal interference tuned to neural disruption. A sonic wave too precise for any traditional species to anticipate began broadcasting, an information virus designed not to harm ships, but to disorient the minds directing them. On the Velar cruiser, command officers staggered. Their link to the hive mind shimmered. For the first time in Velar history, a fleet captain reached for his manual override and found only static. Nolan watched the telemetry spike. "They're falling apart. Faster than projected." "They weren't built for unpatterned war," Kaito said. "We are." Outside, Earth's orbital defense matrix, nothing more than repurposed mining arrays, cloaked observation platforms, and obsolete weapon husks, suddenly came alive. Not with missiles or lasers, but with coordinated chaos. Fields of interference, gravity tugs, localized EMP pulses. Each seemingly random, yet perfectly aligned to unspool the tight logic that held Velar tactics together. Elira stepped forward, voice low. Let them understand now. Andarta's voice finally echoed through the chamber, flat and without emphasis. Engagement phase initiated. Hostile fleet entropy threshold exceeded. Target systems in collapse. In orbit, the Velar ships drifted apart, engines functional but minds in disarray, unable to align. A fleet of ghosts, trapped in perfect formation, paralyzed by what they couldn't see and couldn't predict. Back in the command chamber, the lights dimmed to neutral blue. Kaido exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Did they see it coming? He asked quietly. Elira's eyes narrowed. No, she said. But they will now. The silence in the galactic court was unnatural. Not the poised quiet of diplomacy, but a breathless void laced with disbelief. Hollow feeds flickered above every delegate's seat, casting pale light across the assembly. The Velar fleet, once hailed as unstoppable, now drifted like marionettes with severed strings above Earth's orbit, their elegant crescent ships spiraling out of sync, devoid of control. Varsithal, presiding speaker of the court, quivered with bioluminescent uncertainty. Is this verified? It asked, its voice unusually low. The confirmation came from over a dozen independent sources, unaffiliated scouts, neutral system monitors, and even one Velar distress signal intercepted in clear frequency. The facts were irrefutable. Earth had not launched a counteroffensive. It had not detonated a superweapon. It had simply activated something. And the Velar had lost. In the center of the chamber, Elira Masik returned. No entourage this time. No projection displays. Just the same unyielding composure, flanked once more by Commander Nolan Vire and Dr. Kaido Sung. She looked older now, not physically, but in presence, like someone who had seen the edge of something vast and returned to speak of it. The defense system you mocked, she said, voice steady, was never meant to outgun the Velar. It was designed to outthink them, to disassemble the assumptions your empires built your wars upon. Murmurs ran through the chamber like subterranean tremors. A few delegates looked away. Others watched her with a new weight in their gaze. Not respect, not yet, but recognition. Nolan stepped forward. You built simulations. We built unpredictability. You refined battle doctrine. We trained to break it. He gestured to the frozen feed of the Velar flagship, still intact, yet eerily motionless. You thought war was a math problem. We made it a human one. Kaido adjusted his glasses, a subtle tremor still lingering in his fingers. Andarta is not a superweapon. She is an interface, a mirror to our intentions. She listened when we said we'd rather not fight, but she understood how we would have forced. Varsitha's voice returned, laced now with something uncharacteristic, reverence. The Velar Dominion has requested ceasefire. Elira nodded once. They've learned something today, as have you. Another delegate, this one from the Veloria Accord, leaned forward. Your technology, it violates several tenets of galactic warfare. Mind influence systems, non-linear decision trees, some would argue it's dangerously close to existential warfare. Kaido answered calmly. Only if used defensively. Ours never left our orbit. There was a long, tense beat. Then a delegate from the crystalline Valdari rose slowly. We dismissed your species. We assumed fragility where there was creativity. We saw silence and presumed weakness. That mistake will not be made again. Elira's eyes locked with the speaker's. We did not come here to threaten. We came to warn. We knew what would happen, and still, we gave you the choice to stand with us. You declined. Varsith swayed slowly in acknowledgement. Earth's application for elevated defensive status under Article 12 is hereby approved. Whispers rose again, this time filled with reluctant agreement. Earth would now have a seat among the defensive coalition, a status previously reserved for civilizations with proven deterrent power. Not because of brute force, but because of what Earth had demonstrated, a weaponized mind. As the council session adjourned, Alira remained in place a moment longer, eyes surveying the chamber. The chamber that had laughed at her, that had treated her warnings as noise beneath the static of galactic posturing. "They won't forget this," Nolan said under his breath. "They're not meant to," she replied. Fear was never the goal. Comprehension was. Kaito lingered near a data console, watching as Andarta's final logs scrolled silently across a private feed. "Do you think she understands what she did?" "She didn't do anything," Alira said. "She only reflected us." The Real defense was never Andarta. It was the idea we could no longer afford to be underestimated. Outside the station, Earth hung in the void like a quiet threat, still blue, still small, but no longer dismissed. And somewhere deep in the Dominion's crumbling lines, a new kind of whisper began to circulate. Not of conquest, not of control, but of caution. The kind that comes only after touching something you didn't believe could burn. Alira turned toward the exit, her voice low but unwavering. Let them write it down. Let them debate it in strategy forums and whisper it to their children. Earth didn't fire a shot, and they still lost. The doors hissed closed behind them, but the echo of that truth lingered like the first gust of a coming storm.